Hello and welcome back to another episode of Crux Fibres, where I share about all of the things I'm passionate about with my crafting journey. I am here in Whitehorse, Yukon, which is the traditional territory of the Tahan and the Kwalendun First Nations Council. You are so welcome here. I'm so glad that you have returned. And I have lots of exciting things to share with you today, so I hope you will settle in, have something wonderful to drink, something in your hands to craft, and just enjoy your time with me. Welcome back to my channel. Hello, my name is Brittany, the owner behind Crux Fibres on Instagram, on my website, here on the YouTubes. Welcome back. It's so good to have you here. I'm drinking some black coffee. So yes, welcome. I hope that you are well. I can see my glasses have a bit of some specks on them. And I am cleaning them on my sweater here, which is a sweater I've spoken to you about and that I promised I would show you when the time was right. And today feels like that time. So this is my hand-spun sweater that is so precious to me. I was fortunate to receive this lamb's fleece from a sheep called Nora from Crocus Country Shepherdess. My friend Heidi gifted me this fleece, which is this gray color. And Nora's fleece has changed a lot since I've had her. I believe this is her fleece right here, possibly. Yes, it is. So this is her fleece, and it's, as she's matured, the color of her fleece has changed. She's taking on more of her father's characteristics, and her lamb's fleece was this really nice, soft gray tone, and it was so soft, like fuzzy lamb's fleece, which is like just super fuzzy and beautiful, like these lamb's fleeces. Anyways, when I received this fleece, I had no idea how to spin for a sweater. Absolutely no idea. I was just going to prepare the fiber and spin singles. But again, at the time I did not know how to spin for a sweater, so I would spin a bobbin and then I would wind it off into a cake and then do a center pole ball ply. And then I would do another 100 grams and the same thing, and another 100 grams and same thing. And as I progressed, you could see the difference between my first carded preps to the final one. And because my first skein that I had spun, I didn't do any major pre-drafting. I just went all for it. Long draw. Long draw is like my natural go-to as far as pulling the fiber back and feeding onto your wheel. So as I'm pulling the fibers back, the twist is going up into it, and then I feed it onto my wheel. So that's the long draw that just comes naturally to me. And then the skeins following after, I learned about pin drafting, or at least dizzing as much as I could with this. I used a little washer, like a little metal washer that you use for putting together furniture. I used a little washer to pull the fibers through there, and I'd already had this long bat, so I kind of split it down and then tried to draft it out further. And so then I had nicer prep, and I was starting to get more yardage because I had better prep. So in the end, I believe I ended up with 4 skeins of this this yarn. You can see some biasing right here. You see where the stitches go this way into the ribbing. I did extra long ribbed sleeves so I can fold them up. I have young kids and I'm often in water. I just gleaned it today. It's holding up quite well for a 2-ply sweater spin, and with the nature of hand spun yarn, you could see the inconsistencies of where some of the fibers that were carded, I just didn't want to waste anything, and I didn't know anything again about sweater spinning or fiber processing. I just went all in, watched a few YouTube videos, and just that's me. Just go all in. You gotta spin to learn. You gotta prep to learn. So that's what I did. This is the Wildwood sweater by I believe the Velvet Acorn. And the white is not Nora's fleece. The white is actually a BFL skein of yarn that I had spun that was from a breed specific subscription from Long Way Homestead. And I ran out at about here. And the only other hand spun that I had was some Yukon wool. So you can slightly see a shift in a warmer tone white to or maybe a cold tone white to a warmer tone white. And it's a boat neck. It's quite wide. I'm tempted to weave in a thread to like cinch the neck, but I'm not sure how that'll make the yoke lay flat. So this is my precious Nora sweater. It is so precious, and I don't wear it enough because I'm worried, you know, it won't stand the test of time. But, you know, when you love something, maybe you should just wear it, right? And I have Nora's other fleeces. I continue to get her fleeces, so I can always spin for another sweater. So that's what I'm wearing. I have lots to share with you guys today. Some exciting things, different things. So I hope that you'll stick around through the show, through the episode. I have just a few finished objects. They're small little things and all related in some way or another. So yeah, when I first started dyeing yarn, I reached out to a friend who wanted to collaborate with me, and she designed the Borealis hat. So here in the Yukon we have lots of northern lights, and so she created this colorwork stitch pattern. It's really beautiful. I love the swirls. It's not the kind of pattern that you can, yeah, I guess actually with me when I knit this hat, maybe it's because I've knit several of them now, you can somewhat memorize the rows a bit, but you're always wanting to look at the chart. So if that doesn't float your boat, then that's fine. So the Borealis hat, I think, came first, or maybe the mitts. I don't remember now. And I don't have the mitts to show you because Liz is just testing the pattern in this base because we originally designed it in a worsted merino base, and this one is, oh, it's so squishy and beautiful for the color work. So the colorways that I'm using in this is called Midnight Genius, and this is called Spruce Tip. And on top of it is a links for a pom-pom that Liz also made. Liz is called Treeline Knits on Instagram, and her patterns, she designs mitten and hat patterns. Some of her mitts were designed during the pandemic, so they're called like cussing mitts. There's a few different ones, some cussing words on them, but if you're wanting some mitts with some cussing words or whatever, then she's got some patterns for you. And then the Borealis hat, which is just a really nice pleasure to knit. I have to go down needle sizes. I went down to 3.25 and 3.75, and her pattern calls for 4mm and 5mm. She knits a lot tighter than me. So this is the kind of pattern that you'll probably want to make sure you check your gauge. But the really good thing is my yarn with 2 skeins of DK can knit both the hat and the mittens. So I'm pleased about that. And this will be coming with me to the Peace Fibre Festival in Dawson Creek for April 24th. So I will have kits and some pom-poms, which are ethically harvested, by the way. Here in the Yukon, this is part of the industry. Sheep aren't really raised here because they often bring up a disease that can harm our other wildlife, such as mountain sheep, goats. I'm not sure what I think other animals can get the disease, and it just wipes them out. So further south, where these sheep are constantly having this disease run through their bloodlines, they are fairly immune to it, I believe. But here in the Yukon, it would wipe them out. So we have trappers and hunters, and if you hunt for meat, you're not to resell the meat, you are to use it for yourselves. And often we have hides and furs. They are harvested for the use of things like this, or more mittens, clothing. It's part of our traditional history here with our indigenous community and settler community. Borealis hat and the mittens, which I wish I had to show you. I finished that. The last time we spoke, I was also working on these socks. They're wet because I've just washed them. They've been worn several days in a row for a purpose. Wool is amazing. It doesn't really stink. So this is the DRK Everyday Socks. I've knit a few, or one other pair. That was my handspun socks that I showed, I believe, the last time. But this one is knit in Catherine's Cormo 2-ply fingering weight yarn. And if you know what Cormo is, it is a beautifully soft yarn. I mean, to me, it's just as soft as merino, but I don't think that the micron count would be quite as soft. Maybe off by 1 micron type thing. And it is a 2-ply, which isn't traditionally what is a sock yarn, but I'm all about manipulating the fabric to fit the yarn to make it stronger. And the reason why I wanted to knit these socks was because Catherine on her latest podcast was talking about how high the twist was in the yarn. I will just go grab it actually. Now, this skein of yarn comes with 520 yards. The weight of the skein was, I believe, 100 grams. And this is sourced in the US and spun in the US. But let's just look at this twist. See that twist and how high it is? How tight it is? And then watch this sproing. Look at that. It is incredibly stretchy. High twist, which means that less of the surface is being rubbed in a fabric. So, or less of the surface of each fiber has contact with either a shoe, the floor, your foot. And less contact means better durability. So I decided, because I know Catherine's busy, and I was just up for a challenge, I decided to knit these socks. Now, I did hold silk mohair in the toes, in the fleagle heel turn, and the cuff for the look, but also just to add a bit of reinforcing. When you knit socks, you put in a lot of stitches, right? And you do want these to last you a good little while for you to enjoy them. But honestly, I'm very happy to knit more socks. That's why we knit, because what am I saying? I'm very happy to knit more socks because I love to knit, so why not? And I'm very happy to darn these as well. So far, after wearing them about 5 days in a row, I know it sounds gross, but it was totally fine, they have held up great. There's been a tiny little bit of pilling. These are hand dyed, so you can see some of the natural toning that goes through in the nature of hand dyed yarn. Let's flip them this way. And my comment about this yarn for socks is that it is very stretchy. I followed the pattern for the 60 stitch count, which is for like a 7 or 8 inch circumference foot, I think. Can't remember. Andrea Mowry adds a lot of sizes to this sock. I probably could have gone down 1 or 2 sizes because this yarn is incredibly stretchy, and I only used, I believe, half of the yarn, so I can get a whole other sock out of this, which is great. So yeah, that's one of my finished objects. I used 2.25mm needles and completely stuck to the pattern. I really love this heel, and I'm going to get into it on my next FO that I will share with you. It's called the Fleagle heel. It is a gusset with a short row. So moving on to my final finished object that is knitted is my own sock design. If you've been following me on Instagram, you will have seen this in my stories. I didn't post it to my grid until just today. This is a sock pattern I started toe up to play with some gusset design. So right here is where the gusset increases are, and then I have my purl bump definition, my heel turn, the leg, and then some more details that goes. The details go up into the ribbed cuff. I'm gonna try to stop saying The detail at the front wraps around. You can see it right there. There we go, a little fuzz ball. So these are called the Sickle Socks. I believe I'm settling on that name. A sickle, what is that? Here's a good shape of it. In a field of wheat, barley, things like that, tall grass, or anything really that has a long stalk, you have this long curved blade with a handle, and you go and you whack through the stalks of this field, and that's how you would reap the harvest of your bounty, your field. I'm not a farmer. And I was just knitting these because I felt like it. I just felt like casting on with this yarn, which I believe I showed it last time about the 100 days of yarn walking, and it's Retro Saria's Mondim color 302, which is like a cognac rusty brown color. It's really beautiful, and this is Portuguese wool. It's a 4-ply sock yarn, no nylon. It is, I love it. My mother-in-law said, this is so scratchy, but she doesn't really wear wool, so if you don't wear wool, then anything like this was gonna feel scratchy. So yeah, I just cast it on, and I kept stitch markers along the way, wrote a few notes, especially when I came to doing my heel turn. I wrote some notes just because I wanted to do the same on the other side. And I did a 64 stitch cast on, and I was used to doing a Fleagle heel with the 60 stitch cast on from Andrea Mowry's sock. So why are they called the Sickle Socks? I don't want to stumble and mess up, so I'm going to read what I wrote in my post today on Instagram. So, a sickle is a harvesting tool. I often get right in there, knee deep, wanting to try something new that I'll likely suck at, but embrace the mind of a learner, which in turn allows me the freedom to just find my flow through the experience. This is my second sock pattern ever, and it got easier to write. And I hope my story behind these socks inspires you. You see, perseverance and determination often end in a reaping of something, like your character, your friendships, your wealth, and so on. Doing hard things, going through hard things, it's all hard until eventually it becomes, or it feels easier and more a part of us, like in our day-to-day lives or our regular routines, you know. So this is not to say that this pattern is difficult. It's not. It's quite pleasantly paced. Reaching each section, there's a bit of motivation to get to the next one because there's some intrigue and you want to know how it's done. And the details are eye-catching, I think. I like the photo I posted today. It makes me feel really happy. These socks, well, it's an expression from the times in my life that were the hardest lived and which I saw the most growth and harvest. I am, in my past, living in South Wales, some of the things that I went through physically with rock climbing, kayaking, actual physical hard things, and even some relationship things, they were the hardest things that helped grow me into who I am today. And even in this past few years, some of the hardest times I've had with raising 2 children and looking inwards and seeing who you are as a person, what things you truly value, those things were that all of the learning, all of the change and the growth has come from those hard times. So that's what these socks are, an expression of the hard times. The things I've gone into that I've sucked at, like, I don't know, just things that you go into, you try, you go, that's just my nature. I go in knee deep. And it's the same thing with in my crafting. I want to try the hard things and try doing the hardest thing within that thing to see if I can get good at it. And life is kind of like that. I embrace the fact that things will be hard, and I hope and I look forward to the growth that comes from it. So I look forward to the growth that comes from my spinning, my knitting, my relationships. I look forward to the growth that comes from that, and I embrace the fact that there's hard times. So that's my little TED talk, I guess, or my emotional speech. And that comes to the end of all my finished objects. So I hope that you got something nice to drink and that you're hanging out with me in a nice cozy place. Today it's sunny. This is honestly my favorite time of the year. Outside looks ugly, all the snow is melting, and all the dirt that they've used to make the ground with all the ice less slippery is just displayed. It's an ugly time of year, but at the same time it's just stunning. The sun pours through these windows in the morning, and then as the sun as the earth rotates and the sun goes west, the sun shines through this window, and this is my favorite spot to sit to knit or read a book to my kids or whatever. It's a beautiful time of year, and it makes me hopeful and inspires creativity. So I am knitting on a few things. Again, like just small things. I'm kind of in the mood for small objects, maybe because I don't want a big blanket or a big sweater on me. I do have a sweater whip, and you've seen it before, but I've made a lot of progress on it. Normally I can finish this kind of thing in a week, but I'm just pacing myself because of the type of yarn that I'm using. So to begin, I'm going to pull out my Twizzter again, which I love. If you haven't got a Twizzter, you need one. I'm getting tangled. So I've shown you this yarn before. This is Larry. This is my Handspun. Let's look at it up close. So the warm tone that you're seeing is alpaca. The darker tones is the Tansy Twins, which is a Gotland BFL Icelandic cross lamb. And the lighter tone, gosh, I can't remember all of the, you've got the Herdwick, which comes from the UK. It's the one that you can see lots of kemp and hairiness. That eventually will fall out. But this is actually a fairly soft yarn for me. I don't have scratchy issues. I wear it. And a trick that I actually recently heard about scratchy yarn is when you go to block it, dissolve some hair conditioner in the water and then soak the item in the water, and that hair conditioner will soften up the fabric just like it would your hair if it's like frizzy and whatnot. So if you guys give that a try, putting hair conditioner in your blocking bath, let me know how that goes, and if you notice difference, like maybe block your swatch without the conditioner, and then block your swatch with the conditioner, and maybe not your finished garment in case you don't want the conditioner on it, and then see what the difference is, or just knit some swatches and see how the washing goes. So I am knitting the Brume hat. Brume, I don't know how you say that, but I would think because of the French author of the pattern, it might be Brume. This is a 1x1 ribbed hat. There's a provisional cast on. I test knit this hat for Melody Hoffman, and I love it. I love the crown construction. I've knit several of these. It's become my kind of go-to. I haven't memorized it, but very happy with the pattern. I've gone down needle sizes, and I looked at my Ravelry notes or my notebook notes, and saw that I went down needle sizes as well because of the way that I knit versus the designer. There's a difference in our gauge. So yeah, I am knitting the Brume hat, and I wear that my other Brume hat, which is in Handspun, almost every day, alongside another hat, which is the Jason's cashmere hat, which you have seen on the first and second episode. What can I say? I am actually using 3.5mm needles. I believe my provisional cast on I did either 2.75 or 3.25 for the provisional cast on. The fabric's looking quite nice with this blend. The brim will be folded up, so that's why you do the provisional cast on, because it just looks nice and it has a good stretch. So there's a long way to go on this hat, and I'm sure I will have lots of yarn. I think I have 165 yards. Yes, so that's that one. The other thing I casted on, which was yesterday, and I'm so excited about, and you'll have to forgive me for one moment as I quickly pop away. So, forgive all the jumping around, but this has been a year in the making. I can cry. Nora came from the Crocus Country Shepherdess flock. And I think when you're creating something and it's so dear to your heart, you get emotional about it. So I'm emotional about it. I sourced spring and fall fleeces from Crocus Country Shepherdess last year, and I sent them to a mill in Canada. So this is 100% grown, milled yarn. I'm so very proud of it. It is gold in my hands. So special. And it's coming with me to the Peace Fiber Festival. I feel like it's a good place to launch it, so people can come see it and touch it. And I know that not everyone will be there, but this is so dear to my heart. It is beautiful. Now, what is it? This is a DK Marled Yarn. It's a subtle marling, and I love that. I really love a subtle marl. It's just beautiful. I forget the sheep fleeces that were all involved with this one. It would be Barbara, Emily, and some weather lambs that probably may have had names, I'm not sure, but weather lambs that end up serving their purpose and having to move on to sheepy heaven. There's these two gray tones, so it's not white, but this is a warm tone gray. This is not cool, this is warm. This is Barbara and Ray and Roan and Barbara, Ray, Roan, and one other. And this one has Kylo. This is Nora's dad. He's in here. Kylo Emily, some Weathers, and just beautiful. These hanks are huge, as you can see. I was putting them on my Swift and I had to turn my umbrella Swift on the side so that it wouldn't fall off. And here we go. Look at, I've got Nora. I've got all these sheep. I'm just so happy. I love it. And that cowl that I spun and I knit, this is Nora's fleece and this is Torfall's fleece that I spun. And I knit the cowl that I showed in the previous episode. And the Mills spun yarn versus mine have about the same wraps per inch, almost the same twist. I would say my yarn is probably more denser, but oh my word, about the same yardage too, actually similar. So mine is definitely, like, I was looking at them close and they are so similar. I wonder if I can show you with a finger. So here's Nora's and here's the other one. So Nora's yarn will be on the bottom of my finger and the milled spun yarn is at the top. Look at that. So I spun my fleeces because I wanted to knit something so that I could show everyone just what this yarn is going to be beforehand and, you know, season you guys up to the idea. And then last night I casted on another of my socks, the Sickle Socks, and I'm holding this mohair, which is wool mohair silk blend from Les Belles Bouclettes. I have spoken about them. So it's a lace weight, a 2-ply lace weight, and I held that with the toes, did my cast on, and now I'm just knitting in the round, and I want to show you this fabric. It's so beautiful. Oh, I'm so proud. These sheep are Gotland and BFL crosses. So Gotland is a sheep from Sweden. Their breed goes so far back to the Vikings, and the yarn, the fibers were used to create like rope for their sails, many other things, and Gotland was used for many things, but it's a pretty durable yarn. It has a beautiful shine, luster. It has a look at my sweater here. It just is, it's shiny, it's silky, but it doesn't have a crazy amount of crimp like this here is crimp. And like merino wool has a ridiculous amount of crimp, and what that does is adds elasticity, good yardage, soft, low micron count, which means it's super soft. And so Gotland has more of, where's Nora's fleece here? Oh my goodness, sorry guys. So Nora's fleece here has more curl than crimp. So what that produces is a drapier yarn. So if I hold this up, it drapes, right? So it's not going to have like a ton of elasticity. If you took a yard or a foot of the yarn and you pulled, you wouldn't have much elasticity. And that doesn't mean that it's not a good yarn. It means that that yarn is good for something different. But like I said earlier, I'm a believer in taking a yarn and adapting things or doing something to manipulate the fabric in a way that causes it to serve its purpose. But at the same time, I would love my farm yarn, my custom spun yarn on my feet too. I've got a sweater, I've got a cowl. I don't yet have a hat. That's going to happen. Well, actually, my Larry hat, the Brume, will have some Nora in it, or has Nora in it. So, yeah. So this is precious to me, and this is my other work in progress, and I'm just loving it. It's great. I can't wait to go to Peace Fiber Festival and show everybody this beautiful yarn. And when I come back, everything will go into my online shop for those who couldn't make it to the festival to shop online. So yeah, I'm using it on my Twizzter. Cast it on last night, 2.25mm needle, just going through my sock pattern again. I'll be calling for testers at some point. So yeah. So happy. All right, my final knitting work in progress is the Ginny Cardigan. You guys saw this last time, and I'm using the JC Rennie cone in the color Smoulder, which is it's a Shetland yarn, but there was a word that they put before it as well. This yarn is super fun. I don't know if you can see all these colors in there. It comes out in some lighting a lot like with black and red, but it's called Smolder because there are hues of chartreuse and blue and red, green, silver, and then of course, you know, the base color, which is the black. And yeah, I think I'm knitting size 5, and I'm steeking it. So right here in the middle is 5 stitches. So this pattern doesn't call for a steek, but I'm very comfortable doing steeking, especially with woolen spun Shetland. This stuff, when I won't steek it until actually I've washed it or I've scoured it, because I want to get the spinning oil out of this cone. So I don't have the cone up here, but the cone is downstairs, and I wind off into cakes. The yarn, look at that. See? Isn't that just beautiful? JC Rennie in Scotland. I got 2 cones from them a few months back. And no regrets. They are called greasy cones because they still have their spinning oil in them. On their website, I mentioned this last time, they say to wear gloves, use a respirator if you're going to knit with this, because there's the oils in it. I don't know what oil it is, but if they're saying to wear something, then maybe there's actually, I don't even want to say what I think, because I really don't know. But I do knit this in a ventilated area, or there have been times where I'm like, I want to knit on this, but maybe I will wear a mask. So I will say that. These are very affordable cones. They are 800 or 850 gram cones. Minus the cone, I think you get something like 750 grams. And then on the website, there's also a calculation on how to figure out roughly how much yardage there is. So if you do go to buy one of these, don't assume you've got 800 or 850 grams of yarn, and that you've got a ton of yardage. I believe I could get 2 sweaters out of this if I held it single, but holding it double, I know already looking at my cone, I wouldn't be able to get another sweater. Maybe a ranunculus that's really airy, but yeah. So I'm enjoying this sweater. I got gauged with the recommended needles. And yeah, I'm getting pretty close. I think I have another 2 more inches to go before I start doing the ribbing. Normally I finish my sleeves first, but I kind of felt like just going on the body. I'm not going to actually bind off the body until I finish the sleeves, because I can probably try this on with the steek. It'll fit, and then I'll steek it. Maybe I'll make a little video of me steeking it for you guys. So yeah, that is my final whip, and I have had some other things that I've been up to, and I would love to chat with you about. Some other exciting things and new craft, and some other crafting things that are nothing to do with needles or hooks, kind of. So I'm going to show you my spins. I have been processing all sorts of things. Fleeces from Crocus Country Shepherdess, and alpaca fleeces, some Yukon alpaca, as well as some alpaca that I really love from Manitoba. I forget the breed of alpaca, but this one was a baby alpaca, I believe, or at least a young alpaca, and I don't have the locks to show you, but it's a beautiful, like, red, brownish color alpaca, and let me tell you, if you're gonna get into fiber processing, alpaca, they might look clean and they're not covered in lanolin, but they are dusty and full of dirt. So you need a method to get all the dirt out. With the processing of my alpaca for my shop, I'm doing my best to get rid of the dirt, but because it's hand processing, I can't promise, like, you know, commercial fiber. So anyways, things that I have spun. I don't think I showed you this last time, and if I did, I'm sorry, I forget. This one here is called a fiber pickle. So every time I card bats, there's always some fiber left on the liquor, which is the small drum that feeds the fiber onto the big drum. And there's often second clips, so like when they shear a sheep, sometimes they have to go over again, and there's a little bit that comes off that takes away the staple length. So those little bits can end up in your fleeces. Sometimes there's just really short bits of fiber, and I don't like to waste. I could throw the waste into the garden in a flower bed, or I could put it through the carder with all of the leftover scraps and spin it. So this one I decided to spin myself. I love the fiber pickle. So a fiber pickle is just the same as my yarn pickles. No waste. Don't let anything go down the drain with my dyes. So I make a yarn pickle, which is leftover dyes, and then the fiber pickle is all the leftover fibers. And so this was a beautiful spin. I got about my sort of default, which is 12 to 14 wraps per inch. I haven't checked the yardage, but I did. It was 250 yards for this guy. I love this size of this gauge of yarn. I often knit a lot of hats for gifts, and it's pretty versatile. It's nice to have in the stash, and if ever I want to destash, it's a good size for someone. If they want to buy some handspun, this is a good gauge to buy. So that's that one. It honestly has everything and anything in it, probably even my hair. The final finished spin I wanted to show you is this guy here. So this is the last of my white Yukon wool that I hand processed, and some of the alpaca, the Yukon alpaca, which I was gifted. Really kindly gifted here in the Yukon. There are some alpacas here, but again, they can spread that disease to our sheep. So having wildlife up here for like goats and sheep, the regulations here are tight. You have to go through all this testing. You need to have a double fence around your farm so they can't escape, and even still sometimes they can escape, and if they do, they could go and infect they can infect other animals in the wild. So you have to be careful. So anyways, I was gifted this alpaca. This is soft. It's lovely, and it smells really good because I used a different wool wash, but super, super soft. I have no idea what I want to do with this. I'm thinking maybe I will knit something for Sheila, who gifted me the alpaca fleeces. There's 2 of them. So yeah, this is really, really lovely. It's I did 3-ply chain ply, which results in a 3-ply yarn. And for a hat, I'm not concerned about the chain ply. For socks are, you can chain ply for them, but they could wear in the chain part where the yarn actually chains. That can be a weak point. So for a hat, it's just perfect. It's so squishy. It's so squishy and so soft. So I'm super proud of that. those are the finished spins, and then I have other things on my wheels. I did have something colored that I was working on, but I just wasn't feeling it. I wanted to move more back to my naturals, and I am doing another sweater spin. So I have a second bobbin in the works. This here is my singles. It's pretty fine, about 50 wraps per inch, maybe 45, I can't quite remember. This is a blend I made of Shetland, some mystery BC wool from my friend Melissa, and a merino cross, and Suffolk. It's woolen spun. It's just beautiful. This is going to be a beautiful spin. A beautiful yarn in the end. I haven't fully decided on if I want a 2-ply or 3-ply. If I'm going to do a sweater, a 3-ply is not going to give me a ton of yardage to play with because I only actually have 300 grams. And I was thinking maybe I would knit another ranunculus. I have knit that sweater multiple times and I keep gifting them away. Because people are like, oh, I love that sweater. And I'm like, oh, here, you can just have it. I can knit another one. So, actually, that's not true. I still have one black one. It wasn't originally black. I overdyed it because I wasn't wearing it. But you can't see the stitch pattern. So, but with this one, you could see the stitch pattern if I do a ranunculus. So I can get away with a 3-ply if I do this, if I use the yarn for a ranunculus. But I need to be intentional. So I'm just going to spin my singles, and then do a 2-ply and a 3-ply sample and do a little swatch, I'm thinking. So these are my little nests of the fiber. You can see how I blended this probably 5 times to get it really nicely blended. Probably could have done a 3rd time, but I kind of like the very, very, very subtle barber pulling. It's so subtle. And with the types of fibers, I'm not concerned about the integrity of the yarn. So that's my sweater spin. Just working on it. I haven't actually worked on it in over a week because I have been up to so many other things, including this other spin. I'm not going to be able to show you the bobbin, but this is a crazy fluff nest. I know, boring. It's not colored, right? And it smells like dog because there's dog fur in this. So my neighbor has a Labradoodle, and Tui has very warm, fluffy, combed fur. And my neighbor has been collecting the fur, and she finally had enough that she can give me. So you can't just spin dog hair. It's not wool. Like you could, but you have to add a lot of twist, and you're probably going to end up spinning it super, super fine because these non-wool fibers want to be spun super fine. So I blended it with Rose, the Dorset Cross, who I have spoken about on the podcast before. And so 50% of it is Rose, so 50% of this is wool fiber, and then 30% is Tui's Labradoodle hair, fur, yeah, and the other 20% is the Yukon alpaca. This is so soft, and on the bobbin, it is fuzzy and has a halo like Angora. And when I spin with this, I have to wear an apron, or else the dog fur wants to just come off of me. It is spinning so smooth, and I'm spinning to knit a hat for my neighbor's mother, who has wanted a hat from me for so long. And I decided I was going to spin her a hat. And she will absolutely love that Tui is in this. So don't be turned off by dog hair. Come on. If it provides warmth and you can take the smell of dog out of it, then why not? So it's, yeah, Tui's fur is actually like in a really nice light creamy white. but I wanted some more softness, and a bit more, yeah, I wanted it to be a little bit softer, so that's why I added in the alpaca. And so with rose and Tui's fur, it would have been a very white yarn. And this is going to be a taupe color, which might be kind of boring. I might over dye it. I'm not sure, but we'll get to that eventually. So that's all of my spinning. I have a few final things I would love to show you if you will stick around for just a little bit longer. My next craft I would love to show you is something I've recently, in this past week, learned. And I've been waiting for the tool to make this because it came from, I believe, Latvia. I probably could have sourced them in Canada, but I really liked this kit. So this is called Nålbinding, nail binding. I don't know if it's null or nail. And this probably keep defaulting to Nålbinding. This is an ancient Viking way of creating fabric. And you use a wooden needle that's flat. On my Instagram, please go check it out. I did a little video of introducing this tool. So I have a little kit, and I'll link the Etsy shop down below. But I received this little pouch with 3 needles. You have a smaller one, bigger and bigger. Obviously, for making a either like for the project to go faster because gauge is bigger. But in Nålbinding, there is no concept of gauge, no concept of yarn weight. You grab a needle and you start creating the fabric, and it is a series of loops. If you snagged a stitch, like if you're wearing these mittens and you snagged a stitch, it wouldn't unravel. It would actually tighten on itself because you're creating these little knots. So you go through a new stitch, an old stitch, this stitch back here, which was the previous stitch, and then the previous stitch before that. So you've got these 4 loops on, and then I go in behind my thumb and I pull the yarn through, and I pull it a little snug, not too snug. With this yarn I can't, it's unspun. And then I pull off an old loop, and I now have 2 loops here, and you keep going around and around and around. And what I love about this, you can't really go wrong. You could, you can go wrong with like how many loops you've gone through, but I'm just connecting these multiple loops around and around and around. And then when I want to do a thumb, I end up creating those loops by not attaching it to the existing fabric. And then later on going to finish this thumb. And at first when I was doing this, I was thinking, oh man, this is just going to take forever. But actually it goes by really quick, because look how thick that row is. That one row is that thick, or that long. So with knitting, it would have been like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 rows down. So it does go fairly quickly. And you might be able to tell what I'm using, which is Nutiden. Never not knitting without it. I have just these little balls, and I've been fading them into the next color. So I'll do like a row and a bit with the 2 colors held, and then switch to the 1 color, and then the same thing. And you guys, this is the best fitting mitt I have ever made, honestly. And there are no patterns. There might be like a video tutorial on how to make something specific, but the thing about Nålbinding is it is so specific because you're using your thumb, as you saw me do. You use your thumb to tension, and the needle also helps with the size of the stitch in the end, because you're pulling it through the stitches, so you're having to maintain that space. And then you just stitch away as far down, and this fabric stretches this way, not a whole lot this way. So it's fascinating, and I think to mend these, it's no biggie. I have some Gotland spun yarn that I'm going to maybe make some socks out of. I could turn this into a sock by creating a band here that is about the same, like, I think length of my heel from like the heel gusset. And then I would just pick up those stitches and then finish in the round. You should seriously check out, I'll link a YouTube channel to how to make these mitts and where you can get this needle. But I think you could probably even use like a really big darning needle. You do want like it fairly flat. So nail binding, obsessed with it. I've had to take a little break the last few days because I'm working on those other projects, especially this sock. So that is so fun. So fun. And yeah, I've just been in a mood of wanting to create some other crafty things that aren't just knitting. I do get numb hands, and I do have to give myself breaks because I do knit ridiculously fast and can finish things, yeah, fast. And so I want to enjoy it and yeah, inspire people to check out wool in new ways. Make things, like, discover different fibers and yarns, make stuff with them. If they don't feel nice on your skin, gift them away, but allow yourself that space to explore new things, so that you can learn about the craft that you love. Sometimes you can fall more in love with the craft that you love because you're working in that medium with something new, like a new yarn or a new fiber. And so yeah, I'm just all about, yeah, I just want to love my crafts more and more with exploring different things. So I would love to sit here and knit with you, but before I do, I'm going to show you quickly two other things that I've done with wool. Dryer balls and felted soaps. I'm going to try to sell you on the felted soaps here, okay? Seriously, the best thing ever. I have 2 young kids, a husband, and myself. There's 4 hands touching these soaps. And then when they're not covered in wool, they get gross and they pool. Like, this was at my kitchen sink, used just this morning. It's still damp. Is there a pool of soap there? No. Some people, I think, feel grossed out about putting wool around a bar of soap, but this is so sustainable. It preserves the soap. You don't end up throwing away half a thing of soap because it's gotten gross. And it doesn't pool in this dish and waste more soap. So really, you're just, yeah, doing good things here. So it's super simple. You just need the toe of a nylon stocking. You need wool that can felt, and wool, as long as it's not chemically treated. And you wrap it. This one here, I wrapped it to be kind of like woven. It's really fun, hey? And they smell so good. And I put it in the nylon, and then you need water to do this. And my Instagram has a cute little video that I did to learn how to do this. And you put it in the nylon, you put it in the water, and you rub until it felts. And you get these super awesome felted soaps that aren't going to pool gross, gooey soap. You are using a wool that's exfoliating, and they look nice. Kids have fun. My kids love to wash their hands because they get to touch the soap, and yeah. And then the dryer balls, this is also something that you would use with a nylon stocking. I didn't weigh out these ones, but going forward I will weigh out about 1.5 ounces of fiber, and then you stick it down on a nylon stocking. You put all these balls down the nylon stocking, and then you want to have some like cotton yarn to tie off in between the balls, and then throw it in your washing machine on hot until it felts, throw it in the dryer, and you got dryer balls. So here I used some of my Gotland felted wool that I was given, and my yarn scrap ties. You see that? I just put it all together, and so they're fuzzy. These need to felt a bit more, I think. They're a bit hairy. I might cover them with some more wool and refelt them, just because I don't know if these fibers are going to come out all over my clothing or into the lint collector in the dryer. But yeah, I've got dryer balls. Super easy. So those are some things I've been enjoying with, I don't know, with the kids. The kids had fun with felting the soaps, and they also had fun with seeing. I didn't have them help me, but they had fun with making the dryer balls. So yeah, that's what I have been up to. I would love to know what you guys have been working on. If there's anything that has inspired you, or you have questions about any of the things that I've been working on in this last month, I'd love to hear from you if you have questions. If you're looking for places to find fleeces or farm yarn, I would love to make recommendations. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some podcasts I've been enjoying. I haven't actually been on YouTube a whole lot watching podcasts, but I always love to hang out with Inga from Knitting Traditions and Anna from Bluebird Box. I always watch the Cozy Up Knits. They're such a lively bunch. And what else? Some shows. What have I been watching? I've been watching Vikings Valhalla. That's a good one. I've been enjoying that. I watched the latest episode of This Is Us. And I forgot to talk about it, but today will be day 29 of my 100 days of yarn walking. So every day I will go out for half an hour and walk while knitting. Not everybody can do that, but I just do what I can. It's still a little bit cold here, but I've been managing to get several rows in on some of my knitting. I knit most of my Sickle Socks while walking, most of the DRK socks that I've shown you today while walking. I've done like the heel turn or ribbing at home, but most of it was while walking. So yeah, I've enjoyed the 100 days of walking challenge. It came about because my friend Heather from Itsy Bitsy Yarn Store here in town, she wanted another challenge to help her focus on her health, and she posted about doing 100 days of yarn walking, and she called it yarn walking because she didn't want to exclude people who are knitters or crocheters or Nålbinders, or if you just want to hold a skein of yarn and walk. I don't know. So last year she did 100, I forget what it's called, but it's 100 days of wearing the same merino dress by some company. I can't remember what it's called. So she was inspired by that challenge to create the 100 days of yarn walking. And I know several people have joined in on the challenge, and that's so exciting. I love to see the posts that people have been sharing. So if you want to join in, there's no official start date or end date. It's just hashtag 100 days of yarn walking. And maybe you want to ride a stationary bike or Stairmaster, or maybe walking and knitting or maybe yarn walking isn't easy for you, so you want to go out for a walk and stop and get in a few stitches and carry on. There's multiple ways of yarn walking. I had to dye some yarn in the kitchen and I walked through the house. Yeah, just be creative. So yeah, it is April, right? Yeah, next month is my son's 6th birthday. I just can't believe it. It's gone by so fast. Just feel like you blink and then they're grown up. And he's starting to read. He's working really well on his ABCs in kindergarten. And every day as kids grow, they just have so much emotion and so much things that they're discovering, and they don't know what to do with those emotions. So either they can blow up or they can not talk. But I don't, when Calvin is upset or he's blowing up about something, just let him feel those emotions, and then we talk about it. And if something's inappropriate or not safe, well then, there's a shutting down of that. But it's been just wonderful to watch my kids grow. And in the mornings, John and I have been doing yoga, and they'll come and do little bits of yoga. And if you're doing anything other than down dog, they don't really do much of the yoga with us. But that's something else for my health I've been really enjoying, is just having the mornings, 20 minutes of yoga. It's really helped with my back and my neck. Because this job of yarn dyeing or cranking my carder can tweak my back, and it's important to take care of our bodies when we're doing something that we love. So the yarn walking and the yoga, it's been all good stuff. So hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me once again. I feel like every single episode keeps getting to be more longer by 10 minutes or so. But hey, when you're excited about things in life and you want to share about it, those who want to hear it will stick around and join in the excitement and the joy of it. So I hope that you guys are all finding things that bring you joy in these difficult times. And I hope that my little story about my sock, about the hard times being hard until they become part of everyday life and you're able to navigate them in easier, sustainable ways. If that speaks to you, wonderful. If not, it's been lovely to sit here and chat with you. Hope you're well, and we will see you next time. Maybe with a finished cardigan, maybe with some more socks, maybe with some new crafts. I don't know. Maybe the next time it'll be warm enough to sit outside. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in this world. Let me know where you are from the world. Let me know what you're crafting on. Let me know what inspires you these days. I'd love to hear some of your inspiration. Okay, bye.